Hey everybody, it's Jeremy. Welcome back to Lucid's 2022 Tournament Game 4, where we are playing Nazca. This is turn 41, and, I mean, after the events of last turn, right, we've got a lot of interesting stuff on our plate. So, this is probably going to end up being a longer episode, because we're going to talk, one, there's a lot of different stuff going on. Two, we're going to talk about kind of the game state and what the happenings of the last turn mean for us in the future, right? So let's go ahead and dive into it and kind of get this show on the road. Starting off with some incoming trade. 2 death gems from Vanheim. This is the continuation of the buy-off, basically, right? So as we continue forward with that, we continue to accumulate kind of a pool of death gems that will hopefully be very, very useful for us in the long term, fingers crossed. Moving on, we have completed a bevy of research, starting with Enchantment 6, Construction 1, Construction 2, and Construction 3, all in a single turn. Very happy about that. That is going to get us access to a couple of different interesting things. Enchantment 6 being mainly things like Rigor Mortis, but also things like Riches from Beneath. So very interesting with that situation. And then the run-up construction, mostly aimed at getting to Construction 4, maybe Construction 6 eventually, but Construction 4 in the immediacy for that Bloodstone, so we can go for something like Riches from Beneath, right? And then we have some site searching. We did a single Haruspex last turn, did not find anything, unfortunately. Now we have a whole host of battles to kind of go through. We're going to watch all, like normal, we're going to watch all of the battles that we participated in, and then we'll go back and watch all of the other battles as well. So, starting off, we take Dutrandine, right? We sit on top of the fort, and then we actually get pinged from Ashdod. So let's see what Ashdod throws at us here. Just a little Malik. So a little Malik with a great sword of sharpness. This thing is going to be very, very easy for us to deal with. I will be surprised. I mean, it might get like a kill off because it does have a pretty decent little bless. Regeneration, strength, blood bond, attack skill too. So it has high attack skill, has a great sword of sharpness, going to hit pretty hard. If it hits something, it's probably going to kill it. Let's see where it lands. Lands next to the Hatan Runa, so that is actually a win for it. But gets jumped. I wonder who killed it. I wonder if that was actually like a lance charge from this Condor Warrior. Let's see. Unit overview. The Malik got hits. Yeah, Condor Warrior hit for 23 points of damage. Very nice. Damage rolled a 28. 28 plus 13. No, didn't roll a 28. 28 is the charge. Rolled a 13 versus protection roll of 18. Nice. Very good. Very good. Smash, and there was nothing to distribute with the blood bond, so that worked out very well. Let's see. Did we lose anything? We did not. Cool. Awesome. Okay, so second up, we actually see that Pelagia went for that little isthmus or peninsula or whatever it was, right? Attacked. So we're going to watch this one because this does kind of like correspond with us. Pelagia attacked Vanheim in Illidan. Oh, no. Oh, no. I was hoping it was just like a little raid thug or something like that. And this is not enough PD for Vanheim to really do any damage here. So, this is bad news bears for us. This is a bunch of Wave Warriors, which is what we really have to worry about from Pelagia if we were to go up against Pelagia. Wave Warriors are one of the units that they can produce in mass to send up on to the surface. Pretty strong little bronze trident, hits relatively hard. Decent-ish protection. Baseline stats like human troops base stats, but Pelagia can produce a lot of these, and these guys take buffs fairly well, right? So fairly cool. Got some Pelagian Mystics over here with some water gems, potentially for water elementals. Yes, absolutely. And then we've got a leader here in the back, an Ictiad Lord, just, you know, carrying these Wave Warriors around. But this is going to be bad for us, right? Now, water elementals I wonder if they're going to do 2 rounds. They do two rounds. Wow. Okay, so they actually do not have really any gems left. This was a hard commit from Pelagia. They were like, we're taking this fucking isthmus. That's a fair amount of gems to use. What was it? 4 or 5 gems from both of them? So either 8 or 10 gems, I believe. Looks like they did not really lose anything. They lost a single wave warrior, okay, from an archer. And then, I mean, there's no way we win, right? We sent in a single Huron priest because we're being greedy, trying to hit multiple locations as quickly as we can to lock down Vanheim provinces. And that means, I think even with a second Huron priest here, I think they still lose, probably. Although these wave warriors don't have magic weapons, so that would be a potential issue. They do send out some cold bolts. We actually have cold resistance 5, so we are somewhat resistant to this. Unlikely that we get hit as well. Part of the problem here is we are going to fatigue out, right? So there's no way that our Horde of Skeletons wins against... Maybe, you know what? Maybe if we had both Huron priests here, because this would be 2 sets of skeletons, so it would be 20 skeletons right now to face off against these wave warriors. The skeletons actually aren't a... I say they aren't a horrid matchup because they are pierce resistant, but I mean they're a pretty horrid matchup. They're definitely gonna do very little, right? Just get creamed. But if there were 20 of them, then it might actually matter. And poke, 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 poke. Dead. Easy peasy. So, we do lose a Huron priest here in Illidar, but here's the thing about Huron priests. We actually don't care as much when we lose them, right? Because when we lose them, they are mummified through Nazca's unique national feature. They are mummified back at their home province as a royal, or not as a royal, as a Malqui priest, meaning they keep all of these same paths, but they turn undead, they get new item slots, and they gain, this is important, they gain the ability to reanimate the dead, which is actually going to be very, very nice for us. We are not super sad to lose this Huron priest. We're more sad that we didn't get the province, right? Because now that Pelagia is there, a bump is one thing, but taking it back from Pelagia is a declaration of war, and we don't want to go that route, right? So that's what we're more sad about than we are about losing the Huron priest. We also attack into Noranthian. See how this goes. Other Huron priest, just a single PD here. This is just dealing with the raiding, right? So should be fairly simple. There is the chance that we get sniped by an archer here. Or whenever we're counter-raiding Vanheim. So, but again, we're doing it with things like Huron priests, so we don't care as much when we lose them. We win that counter-raid. We get raided in Ironwood Forest, so pretty simple stuff here. That little stack of vans is going to come... Ooh, we chugging a little bit. That little stack of vans is going to come in, and they're going to mop the floor with our PD. Simple, easy peasy. Okay. No losses there. We attack in Pavonia. This is 6 PD from Vanheim, so we actually do have to be careful here. We could lose to this. Primarily because... Again, we sent in 1 Huron priest. I think that's the biggest issue that I've found with Huron priest as raiders, is they don't do... You can, if you put gear on them, and then put protection buffs, they can get to the point to where they're very difficult for PD to handle. Especially if you're willing to put some sort of, like, regeneration on them or something like that. But without doing that, you basically just want them to do Horde of Skeletons, Horde of Skeletons, Horde of Skeletons. because otherwise, what they summon is going to get overrun by 6 PD. I find if you want to counter raid 6 PD, you want to send 2 Huron Priests. I think, you know, if you got to the point to where, like, you just had the luxury to put on something like Armor of the Knights, and maybe like a Skull Staff, right? Like, you could turn these guys into very, very doable thugs. You could even do something as like Shade Mail, right? Like, if you get to the point to where you have Skull Staves and Shade Mail, you put something like and this depends on which variant you're using, right? Like, if you're using the Astral variant, you don't have to worry about magic resistance as much because of their Astral, so people don't want to Mind Hunt them as much. But if you don't have an Astral variant, you can use things like an Amulet of Anti-Magic and a Lodestone to get them up to 20 magic resistance. Do something like Shade Mail, Haberkin. A Skull Staff actually makes these guys almost immortal to Province Defense. But that's a really heavy investment at that point, right? Like, that's 10 gems on the magic resist gear. That's, Shade Mail is like a 15 or 20 gem item. And then that's a 10 gem item for the Skull Staff. Like, that's pretty hefty. But in doing that, you can do Invulnerability Soul Vortex with the Huron Priest. And really, at that point, they become all but immortal against regular PD. But, I mean, there's plenty of things that can become all but immortal against regular PD, and that's a very big investment for the Huron Priest to be able to do that. But it is an option. As it is, I'm pretty sure we're going to die here. So, that means we had 2 failures in raiding with our Huron Priests this turn because we got greedy, and instead of going into one location with 2 Huron Priests, we tried to go to 2 locations with 1 Huron Priest. But what we lose is we actually lose Illidar. We'll get Pavonia, right? It's inland. It's just a matter of now we have turned 2 Huron Priests from Huron Priests into Malquay Priests. So, there you go. That's pretty interesting. Okay. Other things. Oh, right. We also get attacked in Forest of Pine. And this is by the Shipwreckers. So, easy peasy here. This is just part of our pretend war with Vanheim. Which, by the way, like, I've got to say, I don't know if this is intentional, but I've noticed this with the Nazcan province defense. I do not know if this is... I feel like this is not how it's supposed to happen. Most province defense melee commanders, right, are set to stay behind troops, right? This is, if you watch, this is, I think, the second time we've seen this in this turn. But this Karaka, like, the melee troops, he just goes around them. The troops stop to fire, and he's like, nope, I'm on attack. Let's go, bitches. Which is very, very strange. Actually, I say he's on attack. He's on fire. So that feels weird to me. That feels like that should... I mean, it's a small thing. It really doesn't matter at the end of the day. This group of province defense was going to lose regardless, right? But this is weird. Like, this shouldn't happen, right? Like, the commander should stay behind the troops so that the troops have some sort of a chance to defeat the invading force, right? So, very strange. That happened in Forest of Pine, and I believe that also actually happened in... I think it happened in... What, did it happen in Ironwood? Let's check. I don't know that it happened in Ironwood. It might not have been this turn. Yeah, he's running. He's just running ahead of the troops. I guess in this particular instance, he's on stay behind. It might have been last turn where it happened, but regardless, there seems to be like in instances where there are multiple like range troops or something like that, the Karakas have a tendency to go ahead of those ranged units and throw their javelins and just immediately die. And that feels like an oversight in the design of the province defense for Nazca. So, anyways, moving on. That brings our battle total. We have a whole bunch of battles. That brings our battle totals to battles versus Vanheim, 1 win and 3 losses. Oops. That's not how that's supposed to go with the rating. Versus Ashdod, we have 1 win and 0 losses. That's good. And then versus Pelagia, we have 0 wins and 1 loss. So kind of a meh turn for us as far as battles go, which is unfortunate, but it's okay. We're not really at war. This just means we're slow to take what we potentially have the option of taking. The big meh being the battle at Illidan, right? So, now we have a couple of events. Let's take a look at those. In Neranthian, a handful of magic gems were found under a huge rock. We got 8 earth gems. That's a handful, right? Like, 8 is a handful. 1 is not a handful of gems, game. I think that was last turn when I got the handful of gems. No, I think it was the turn before that, actually. And it was just 1 nature gem. Anyways, in Packwoods, we have another handful of magic gems were found under a huge rock. Another 8 earth gems. And then in Omia, nice. A treasure was found. Gold plus 870. Got some fire, air, water, and earth gems. And got a mirror armor. Very cool. So that brings our event total to 0 negative and 3 positive events for the turn. We got gold plus 870, fire plus 4, air plus 3, water plus 5, earth plus 15, and a mirror armor. So that's pretty cool. Very happy about that. In point of fact, actually, we talked about this last turn, how we were pretty low on earth gems for wanting to hit the riches from beneath mark, right? So we can't cast it. We have enchantment 6 now, but we can't cast it right now because we don't have an earth 5 caster. So we need to hit construction 4 to make a bloodstone, and then with the bloodstone and earth boots, our god or one of our earth 3 randoms can cast it, right? But we got to get construction 4 to get that bloodstone, and then we'll have to do a turn to make the bloodstone, and then we'll have to do a turn. Like, so it was this concept of like, I think we were at like 45 or 46 earth gems. We need like 70 earth gems to cast riches from beneath, right? So the scenario was like, are we gonna have enough gems to be able to cast it, or are we gonna have to wait several turns? Because we don't want to wait several turns. We want to get that spell up as quickly as possible so we can have a bit of an economy. And this random amount of earth gems is absolutely the ticket item that we wanted, right? So this puts us up close to that mark already, plus the income that we have over the course of the next 2 turns should totally put us there, or put us like 1 turn away, right? So that's really good for us. Very, very happy about that situation. Aside from that, we have cracked the fortress in Dutrandine, which is good. We want to go ahead and try to get that taken care of as quickly as possible. We've got some starvation happening, which is a little unfortunate, but kind of expected. We don't have... Prior to this turn, this is something that I was concerned about moving armies about, but prior to this turn, we didn't have any construction, so we couldn't make any resource items, or supply items, rather. So I knew that this was potentially going to be a problem, but I didn't really want to trade for it or go out of my way or anything like that. But we will try to get some supply items in the mix sooner rather than later. And we lost 2 Huron priests and gained 2 Malquerry priests. That's going to go in the Nazcan recruits, just so that I have a place where I'm like, this is where we're keeping track of this. But yeah. Anyways, moving on. Let's take a look at what we are doing this turn. So, Counter rating in Ironwood Forest, counter rating in Forest of Pines with 2 Huron Priests. Just because we're not sad about losing Huron Priests doesn't mean we want to lose more of them, right? Malqui Priests are more expensive upkeep, even though they do have services that are very useful for us. We do want to try to avoid that, so we're going to use Huron Priests to counter raid against Vanheim, since Vanheim is only putting in 1 PD, right? And we don't want to lose more Huron Priests whenever we don't have to. Now, we might still lose a Huron Priest here or there to a stray arrow, but it's not that big of a deal. Mostly, we just want to make sure that, we're not losing a crazy amount. That's really the only big thing that's happening in our territory. We are moving some more Apus into Miratran to be able to maneuver around some of our Hatenruna. Up in the Ashdod lands, we are moving around a bunch of scouts, and we can see, right, Ashdod did indeed do their little push out. Oh, wait, hold up. I'm sorry. Go back to the, no, not back to the beginning, but back towards the beginning. We didn't cover all of the other battles, right? So we're gonna see some of this as Ashdod comes out. So, kicking things off, Ulm is attacking Vanheim in Cern. Let's see what this is. Okay, so this is just a little ping. Sees some PD, no big deal. Also attacking in Turtle Glades. Looks like just suiciding some scouts. Again, just killing off some PD. I wonder what's up with that. Maybe... I don't know. Maybe we just witnessed those scouts getting patrolled out. I don't really know. We saw the Pelagian attack on Illidar. This is Ashdod attacking Mushwood, coming out of their capital with these little squads. We saw this last turn. Little Emite, a couple of Long Dead, some Rephites. Up against this amount of PD, these Rephites should smash, but they might take losses here or there. So, no losses on that one. Also in Desert of Visions. Let's see what we got. Oh, now this is actually a stack, right? Like these are some Sheshai Anakites. This is a Kohen set to Bless. Unfortunately, not going to get all of them, it looks like. Oh, but actually has, 5 on guard and a couple on... So I actually found this interesting about Sheshai Anakites. They're actually one of the easiest ways of doing this, where, normally you don't want to have less than 5 units in a squad, because less than 5 units in a squad take morale checks. But Sheshai Anakites have Berserker, right? So you can very easily throw 3 of them into a squad and have them come smash 6 PD super duper easily, because there's no way that they're going to rout, even if they take a big hit. So, very, very cool. So those were the battles that we skimmed over. I apologize for that. But we can see, right, Ashdod has broken out from their capital, taken their cap circle back. I do not have vision on it at the moment. However, Ulm has moved the Agarthan army down into Wolvermore, right? There is this little river here, so I don't think they're going to be able to cross over to Greenwoods immediately, but I expect to see next turn them be in White Peaks, and then probably either go down to Retha or go over to Greenwoods, right? So they are marching on Ashdod's capital. But that means we have to be very cautious of where we are going over the course of the next several turns, because we don't want to take significant losses here. We don't want to run into a big old stack of Ashdod's army. And while we're in Dutrandine, it is entirely possible, right? If Ulm is here in Wolvermore, right, and it takes them 1, 2, 3, 4 turns to get over to Ashdod's capital. Well, Ashdod could just be like, YOLO, 1, 2, 3. They could make it back to Dutrandine very, very quickly. So we've got to kind of watch out what's going on. And what we want to do is get eyes on the entirety of Ashdod's territory and try to limit their mobility as best we can. We are going to be sending in Hatenruna to do this, right? So if we lose massive amounts of Hatenruna, whatever, who gives a shit? Not a big deal, right? But Hatenruna have a chance of taking, not killing something like all these Sheshai Anakites, right? Or even probably killing all these long dead Rephites, but they absolutely can kill this Emite, and they potentially can kill this Kohen, even though this Kohen has bodyguards, right? Because the bodyguards don't envelop the Kohen, and when we drop, we absolutely will envelop whatever's in the back. So there is the chance that this group bumps and potentially dies, but there's also the chance, one, we don't care, right? They're Hatenruna, they're 2 gold upkeep cost per fucking year. We really don't give a shit. They are here as fodder. We're going to use them as fodder, right? So there's the chance that we bump in Pavonia, but even if we lose, not a big issue. And there's definitely a possibility that we snipe a commander. So fingers crossed there. And we're going to storm castle in Dutrandine. So our goal, right? Pelagia's taking rid. Motherfucker. Our goal, right, at the end of this is to probably take, one, Dutrandine, but also this territory, right? And then let Ulm have this territory, is the idea, right? We would love to take this southern section, but we're going to have to be very careful. We don't want to take the heat from Ashdod, so we're going to be slow about moving into some of these spaces, especially now that we've already kind of lost the opportunity of taking stuff from Pelagia, the coastline, right? Because we don't want to... We have peaceful relations. We don't have a nap or anything like that with Pelagia, but we do have peaceful relations, meaning that I don't want to trigger a war with them at this moment. So, let's talk about more mechanical pieces. Specifically, we're going to talk about recruitment for the turn. So, recruitment going on. We have 3 Huron Priests, 9 Alkek Runa Archers, 8 Heavy Infantry, and 4 Sun Guard. So, why do we have that? What is going on? Mostly the same things that we've been talking about. Huron Priests are the best combat mages that we have, especially now that we have Horde of Skeletons. Sending a mass of like 5 or 6 Huron Priests into a chunky little stack of Anakites or even long dead Rephites, right? Those types of things can work out for us if we Horde of Skeleton spam. If we throw something more into the mix like Rigor Mortis or something like that. So we want to try to get more and more of these guys on the list so that we can kind of actually have that combat potential, but potentially to actually try to fight against Ashdod, right? So we can crack Ashdod's fort very, very easily, right? They do have a lot going on here, but I think even though they have a lot of long dead, actually they have a shit ton of long dead, we could bring certain things to bear and potentially beat them in a big battle. My hope is that we don't have to beat them in a big battle, period, right? My hope is that Ulm will do that. Actually, I guess like the perfect storm would be Ulm takes a big battle against Ashdod and loses everything but does a shit ton of damage, and then we swoop in and take Ashdod and negotiate with Ulm, right? To be like, hey, we'll keep this until you can get a force over here to take it back, or hey, we'll pay you to keep it forever, right? Something like that. That would be like a perfect storm, but I don't expect that to happen. I think Ulm has the engagement if they go up against Ashdod. The Ulmish player seems, from what I have seen, seems to have a good head on their shoulders for analyzing what are they going up against and what do they need to have prepared to deal with it. So fingers crossed. So we got recruitment. We also have Nazcan recruits, and this is gonna have some added stuff this time around. I'm very excited about this. So in the Nazcan recruit section, let me go ahead and put the time up here because we're gonna talk about this for a little bit. We have 38 Hatenruna, right? We have 14 Long Dead Warriors. We have 2 Supaya, 2 Malqui Priests, and 1 Summon Condors for 15 Condors. So this is kind of the evolution of the Nazcan recruit sections. Eventually, the hope is that we're gonna have a shit ton of Nazcan recruits, right? The hope is eventually you'll see 50 Long Dead Warriors per turn on here. You'll see 20 Supayas. You'll see maybe not Malqui Priests and things like that every turn, because that means we've lost units, and we are going to try to avoid that where we can. But the intention is also you'll see 2 or 3 summon Supayas, a summon Huaka, occasional summon of Condors, although as we get further into the game, we'll want to do summon Condors less and less, because they're less and less valuable, and air gems are more and more valuable for other situations. But this is fun. This is the first time in a long time that has actually felt, obviously, it's turn 41. We're way off the mark of where we would want to be. We would, in a perfect world, we would already be producing 20 Supayas per turn and 50 Long Dead per turn, etc., etc. But, we're getting there eventually. It's just nice to have it being done. And I don't know, I'm feeling positive vibes, right? So for anyone who doesn't know, I'm assuming most people do, but for anyone who doesn't know, the reason why we now have Long Dead Warriors added into that mix is from those 2 Malqui Priests that we lost this turn, right? So we lost one in Nazca, and we lost one from Omiya, so we immediately have both of them reanimating Long Dead Warriors. They're going to get 7 per turn. And we're probably just going to have them do that forever, right? Eventually, what we would want is we would probably want 2 or 3 Malqui Priests in every fort, only reanimating Skeletal Warriors, like Long Dead Warriors, so that we just have these massive piles of Long Dead that make it very difficult for people to see just down, right? Is one thing. They have to do things like utilize Flames from the Sky, or is it Flames from the Sky? I never remember. Flames from the Sky is the right one, not Firesword. Yeah, Flames from the Sky is the ritual. Flame Storm is the battle version. So Flames from the Sky, or things like Murdering Winter. I think Murdering Winter still works against Long Dead. They do have, they do have cold resistance, but their HP is so low that you can still Murdering Winter them if they're in cold, I believe. Right? Because you do more damage the more cold scales. Fortunately, I say fortunately, did we take heat? I can't remember. I think we're heat 3, aren't we? I believe we are heat 3. So fortunately, that means, if that is the case, we shouldn't have cold scales that frequently. So it should be relatively difficult to do that type of stuff. And if people are going to Flames from the Sky my stacks of Long Dead, cool. Great. Is what it is. So whatever. No big deal. Okay, so that's kind of the Nazcan recruit section. Very, very excited to see us kind of like putting together some more scenarios there. We're so behind the curve, but I got to get excited for some things. Otherwise, it'd be what it be, right? Next up, special recruits. We're gonna keep tracking this shit. 3 wolves every turn. I say every turn, maybe not every turn, but 3 wolves for now, at the very least. And then we actually have some rituals. We have more than just a single ritual, because we are going to be site searching. We've got rituals, 1 augury, 1 arcane probing, 1 dark knowledge, and 1 haruspex. So let's talk about that very briefly, kind of like the what and why. We are not really at war. Obviously, we have... I say we're not really at war. We are at war. We're just not at war with Vanheim. We're at war with Ashdod, and we're at... We're in an information war, right? We are at war with Ashdod because we want Ashdod's territory. We do not want Ashdod to come back into the game. We want their land so that we can come back into the game. And we want people to not know that we aren't at war with Vanheim. So those are the two wars that we're really in: war with Ashdod, war with information. So we're going to continue to raid and counter raid, quote unquote. But a lot of our focus is going to be on safely acquiring Ashdod territory. If it is turn 41, if we can take the next 9 to 14 turns, so by turn 50 to 55, if we can take those turns to take land from Ashdod and put Ashdod down, or assist Ulm in putting Ashdod down, site search all of our territory, hit some important research goals, be able to put up infrastructure to where we have the ability to kind of like defend and launch attacks from our lands, actually defend and launch attacks from our lands, and work our way into whatever the next actual conflict for us is going to be. We might be minorly back in the game, right? We might be that kind of like at that point of annoyance or consideration, right? Not an actual major threat, I wouldn't assume. Definitely not a major threat compared to someone like Pelagia or really someone like Vanheim at the moment. Not someone like Ulm, but enough to where people might hesitate to just immediately pull the trigger on us, right? And that will potentially allow us more and more time. So what are our actual goals? Goals, like I said, take as much Ashdod territory as possible, or old Ashdod territory as possible, all our old territory, etc., etc. Keep our allies happy, assist them when we can and where we can. Hope that Vanheim loses the war against Jotunheim and Ulm, and that we're able to pick up a couple of new provinces. Really, I just want our fucking... I want this province back, so it hurts me. It hurts me that this was our first fortification to go down, and we don't own it. I want it back, right? Take thrones, right? We have thrones on our land, on our borders that are still unclaimed, so that's going to be a very big focus for us. Site search all of our territory as best we can, and do a couple of little tricks. So we are going to be construction 4 next turn, and then we're actually going to be going up blood and thaumaturgy. But let's talk about the reasons why. So when we hit construction 4, that's going to allow us to forge a bloodstone. The following turn, we should be able to put up riches from beneath. Riches from beneath. I'll actually, if we go that route, I'll show the calculations, right? Like the turn that we're going to do riches from beneath, I will show kind of like the expected income. But I've been doing them for a couple turns now, and in theory, we're going to double our income, basically. Even from having shitty resources, because we have a couple of mines, right? Like this gold mine is going to be worth 120 gold, right? This copper mine is going to be worth 40 gold if we can get candles in Neefel. If we can get candles in Austin Glen, right, this gold mine will also be worth 120 gold. And then we'll just get a little bit of passive income boost across the board from the resources that are in various locations, right? So that's going to be a big deal. And then the other thing that we're looking for scaling is going into blood, right? And doing something like blood fecundity, right? We have this passive income of blood slaves. If we put up blood fecundity for like 20 turns in our capital, we're never gonna have a 50,000 population capital or anything like that, but we could grow the income up to, you know, maybe to like 300-ish, which in the long run is gonna be helpful, right? People talk about how nice it is to have province income events of like, ooh, here's plus 10. Well, that plus 10 is 100 gold over the course of 10 turns. Sure. So even though we're way behind the curve on growth, getting some growth can still be very nice for us. And obviously, the longer the game goes, the better it can be for us. So that's one of the things that we're looking for. Plus, we could run up more blood and try to go for something like Curse of Blood, right? Start getting vampire lords, start blood hunting, and start actually becoming a blood economy. That is entirely a thing that we could do. I don't know that it is a thing that we will do. Aside from that, we're going to run up Thaumaturgy 4, because that is going to give us access to things like Auspex and Gnome Lore. Again, we want to try to site search all of our territory as best as we can. And then it's really kind of like a decision that has to be made. Do we want to run up Alteration so we can try to have decent battlefield magics to fight someone like Vanheim? Or Ashdod, depending on how long that conflict goes. Do we want to start running up Conjuration so that we can get things like summon Huacas and summon Sapayas? Will we have enough of an income to really take advantage of that, right? Right now, we only have 5 Death Gems per turn, but we have a big bank. Whereas we actually have 8 Astral Pearls per turn. That means every other turn we can afford to summon Huacas, so that's pretty good. If we get lucky in our site searching, right, with all our arcane probing, and we get up to, 12 to 15 Astral Pearls, we could just start summoning Huacas every turn, and that would be really, really big for us. Then there's always the idea of going further up Conjuration to something like Conjuration 8 for Well of Miseries. We actually do get a bunch of interesting things along the way, things like Living Fire, Living Clouds, Living Earth, all we can make use of, right? We can actually break ourselves into a couple of different opportunities along the way via some summons. And we could even eventually look into things like Elemental Royalty if other people aren't already picking them up. But the big thing would be something like Well of Misery and Manifestation. I find Manifestation to actually be a very, very, very potent remote attack. I've used it and seen it used to great effect in a lot of different situations. We have a lot of really good Deathcasters. Manifestation should be relatively easy for us to pull. I say relatively easy for us to pull off. Actually, it's not that easy for us to pull off because, mixed responses here. It's not that easy for us to pull off with our base mages, but we can get to things like liches very easily, which make it very easy to use, right? Does that make sense? So, Conjuration, High Conjuration is absolutely... High Conjuration, High Alteration, or High Blood are kind of the ideas that we might want to go for. We are obviously still very behind the curve. We could go for Construction 6, and start producing our own things like Lightless Lanterns. We could, once we hit Construction 4, just say fuck it and turn all of these Death Gems into Skull Mentors, right? But as I am doing all of the things that I'm doing, I'm trying to weigh how much time do we have? What opportunities do we have, right? Like, because the greedier we play, we're really far behind. We really are. The greedier we play, the kind of like longer it takes us to get to a point where we have threat, right? But the greedier we play, the bigger that threat becomes once it actually goes online. So if we, for instance, if we're like, okay, we're aiming to be a threat at turn 55, then that means we need to target specific things. Versus if we say, okay, well, we want to be a threat by turn 65. Okay, that means we can prioritize a couple of different things and try for different stuff. Versus if we're like, look, I don't think we're going to be able to do anything until turn 80, then I can say, okay, turn 80, I can prioritize having 3 9s by turn 80 if I'm just left alone. But if I'm wrong, I will die if like Vanheim comes at me or Pelagia comes at me or Ulm comes at me, right? Like, I will die if we pick the wrong kind of direction. So this is a really interesting game state for me. I almost, obviously, right, like, in a game like this, you want to be in a powerful game state. We are not in a powerful game state. But I almost find this as interesting or even more interesting in certain situations because it's that kind of trying to figure out, okay, what the fuck can I do to try to make myself powerful, to try to make myself have an opportunity here. And I think what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to be greedy. We're going to try to use this at least the next 9 turns. I think, no, technically it would be turn 51 before we could end our nap with Vanheim. So 45 and then 51 would be when attacks could be launched, right? So we're gonna use at least this 10 turns, right, to establish ourselves as best as we can, and probably more than that, right? We're probably going to lay low until our hand is forced, because the longer that we have to come online, getting to that point where we have an economy, a gold economy, a gem economy, getting to that point to where we have our own research kind of like actually going, and we can hit some 7s, 8s, 9s, etc. If we are left alone to do that, even if we're small, because of what Nazca has access to, we could become a threat potentially. Now, I think we're up against good players, and I think either we're not going to have that opportunity, or even if we do get to that opportunity, I think they're going to be prepared and they're going to have counters, right? But I think it's kind of our only real option. So, that's me waxing poetically about a lot of different things, kind of the plans of what's going to happen over the course of the next turn. We'll see how that goes. We'll see how lucky we get with our greed. I think I'm hopeful that the year recaps. So this is year 4, right? I think the year 4 recap is going to be very drastically different from the year 3 recap on what we have access to. I'm hoping. And then if we survive long enough, I'm hoping that the year 5 is going to be like, okay, we are actually maybe back in this, right? On what we're able to produce, what we have from a research standpoint, etc., etc. Maybe we will actually be back in the game at that point. And I think what would that be? That would be turn 60, right? So we're at turn 41 right now. If we're allowed peace for 19 turns, and we can get some of these things going, all of the site searching, get economies going, get some additional land, get some infrastructure, get some thrones, maybe, just maybe, we actually have the way back into this game. So, that's the idea. Fingers crossed. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. It really helps me out. If you'd like to see me live, head over to my Twitch at twitch.tv/thedistanthorizon.